Over a century has passed since the reign of terror inflicted by Cayetano Santos Godino, a notorious murderer who plunged Argentina into fear. This young boy became a fascination for criminologists of the era due to the sheer brutality of his crimes, coupled with the enigmatic nature of his appearance and personality. The narrative of a child committing such heinous acts is both shocking and perplexing. Cayetano's descent into criminality commenced at the tender age of 8 and ceased only when he reached 16. As previously stated, the recounting of this tale is deeply unsettling, particularly considering the involvement of children. It is a narrative that deeply wounds the soul. Let us delve into the chronicles of Cayetano Santos Godino. Born on October 31, 1896, in a destitute neighborhood of Buenos Aires, Cayetano earned the moniker El Petiso Orejudo, literally the big-eared dwarf. His parents, of Calabrian descent, migrated to Argentina a decade prior to his birth, seeking better prospects like many Italians of the time. Life during this period was fraught with hardship. Between 1876 and 1900, an annual exodus of approximately 220,000 Italians departed Italy, with the majority heading to South America or the United States. Cayetano was the youngest of 9 siblings, with 3 brothers and 5 sisters. His father, Fiore Godino, toiled as a bricklayer while supplementing the family income by performing on the streets as a guitarist and vocalist. Unfortunately, as is often the case in stories involving serial killers, Cayetano's father was a violent man prone to alcoholism. His affliction with syphilis prior to Cayetano's conception likely contributed to the child's physical and mental impairments. Physically, Cayetano was diminutive in stature, with prominent protruding ears and disproportionately elongated arms. Additionally, he exhibited signs of intellectual deficiency with a notably low IQ. His mother, Lucia Rossi, assumed the role of homemaker, lacking formal education and intellectual acumen. From a tender age, Cayetano was acquainted with the harsh realities of violence within his household. His father was often drunk and constantly beat him, subjecting him to daily abuse. The family was poor and dysfunctional, and the beatings from his father and older brothers caused numerous head injuries. He was always subjected to head trauma. Years later, when examined, doctors discovered 27 scars on his head. Cayetano appeared younger than his age, making it difficult for him to attend school and follow lessons. He was a disobedient child with antisocial behavior, changing schools frequently. His peers mocked him for his large ears, so he only managed to befriend younger children. As he did not attend school regularly, his favorite pastime was wandering the streets, which soon became the stage for his crimes. At 7 years old, his anger began to explode, initially taking it out on animals such as birds and cats, which he tortured and mutilated. However, this was not enough for him, so he decided to target his first human victim. On September 28, 1904, at almost 8 years old, Cayetano was caught by a policeman while beating a 2-year-old boy named Miguel de Paoli in an isolated area. Both children were taken to the police station and returned to their families. Unfortunately, the incident was dismissed as a minor altercation between children. A year later, Cayetano lured another child, an 18-month-old girl named Anna Neri, to an abandoned area. He began hitting her with a stone, but again a policeman intervened just in time. He was taken to the police again, and they contacted his parents. Due to his young age, the police released him once more. On March 22, 1906, in Buenos Aires, the chilling disappearance of 3-year-old Maria Rosa Face marked the onset of Cayetano's grisly saga. She became his first victim. leading her to a secluded spot. Cayetano attempted to strangle her. Failing in his attempt, he callously buried her alive in a ditch, concealing the site under containers. Despite an intensive police search, Maria Rosa was never found alive. No suspicions were cast upon the 9-year-old Cayetano, shrouding his nefarious deeds in secrecy. Yet Cayetano's insatiable rage persisted. On April 5, 1906, his father, upon discovering their missing canaries gruesomely mutilated, dragged him to the authorities, decrying his violent and antisocial behavior, imploring for his imprisonment. Cayetano was apprehended and consigned to a reformatory for troubled youth, where he languished for 2 months. Tragically, this brief respite failed to quell his violent tendencies. If anything, it fueled them further. Fast forward to September 9, 1908, Cayetano ensnared 2-year-old Severino Gonzalez with the lure of candy, leading him to a nearby warehouse. There, he callously attempted to drown the innocent child in a horse trough. Fortunately, the timely arrival of the warehouse owner thwarted his murderous intent. Despite his limited cognitive faculties, Cayetano concocted a tale of a mysterious woman in black, ostensibly attempting harm to Severino, positioning himself as the hero who intervened. Astonishingly, the authorities bought into this fabrication, allowing Cayetano to evade justice yet again. On September 15, 1908, Cayetano attempted to burn the eyelids of a 20-month-old boy named Fulvio Botte. Fortunately, the child's mother arrived in time and Cayetano fled. Cayetano's parents were extremely worried about his behavior and took him to the police on December 6, 1908. They managed to convince the authorities to send him to the Marcos Paz Juvenile Reformatory. After 3 years of physical and psychological abuse, Cayetano was released at the age of 14. He had learned to read and write, and his family hoped he had changed. His father found him a job at a thread factory, but he was fired after just 3 months. He moved from factory to factory, proving to be an unreliable worker. In 1912, Cayetano resumed wandering the streets of Buenos Aires, developing a passion for fire and alcohol. Pyromania became his new pastime, his way of having fun. On January 17, 1912, he set fire to a warehouse on Corrientes Street, escaping before the fire brigade arrived, who took over 4 hours to extinguish the fire. Later, he would admit to setting the fire, saying he enjoyed watching the firefighters work and seeing things burn. However, Cayetano's ferocity and violence still needed an outlet. On January 26, 1912, a 13-year-old boy named Arturo Larrora was found dead in an abandoned house, half naked with a rope around his neck. The police could not identify the killer at that time, but later it was revealed to be Cayetano. 6 weeks later, on March 7, 1912, a 5-year-old girl named Reina Vainikov was looking at a shoe store window with her grandfather when she suddenly screamed. Her dress had caught fire. A nearby policeman and some passers-by managed to extinguish the flames, but Reina was severely injured and died 16 days later. A series of fires broke out in the city, but the police couldn't identify the arsonist. On September 24, 1912, Cayetano killed a mare in Paulino Gomez's stable by stabbing it 3 times. He wasn't arrested due to lack of evidence. On November 8, 1912, he attempted to kill another 2-year-old boy named Roberto Russo, tying his legs with a rope and trying to strangle him. An alert worker saved Roberto and Cayetano was taken to the police station. He made up a story about saving the boy from a woman, and once again, the police believed him. On November 16, 1912, Cayetano was seen by a policeman hitting a 3-year-old girl named Carmen Ginani. Fortunately, she wasn't injured. Cayetano escaped punishment again and continued his crimes. 4 days later, he tried to abduct a 5-year-old girl named Catalina Nail, but her screams alerted a neighbor who came to her rescue. Cayetano fled before he could be caught. On December 3, 1912, Cayetano saw a 3-year-old boy named Gesualdo Giordano playing outside his home. He lured Gesualdo with candy and took him to an abandoned house. He attempted to strangle him with a belt, which broke, so he tied his hands and legs and started beating him. Then Cayetano left to find a nail, intending to drive it into the boy's head. When he returned, he encountered Gesualdo's father looking for his son. Cayetano lied about not seeing him and went back inside to complete his horrific act, driving the nail into Gesualdo's skull. A few minutes later, Giordano's father finds the little boy's body wrapped in a sheet. That was Cayetano Santos's final murder. Shortly after, the police arrive. What they can see is a murdered child, perhaps for a blood-curdling lament, with a nail driven into the skull. There were no real clues, just the body surrounded by used cans and tissue papers. Giordano's body was taken back to his parents' home and prepared for a funeral. People wondered who could have done such a thing to a poor, innocent child. Even Cayetano attends the funeral wake. He remains silent for a moment before approaching the body and touching the head to check, but not finding the nail, he asked the nearby people what happened to it. That's how they managed to discover it. Additionally, many witnesses come forward and tell the police they saw a child walking with an angry-looking teenager the following day. On Wednesday, December 4th, 1912, Cayetano was arrested. They found 2 pieces of rope in his pockets matching the belt found on Giordano's body. Cayetano confessed to the murder, but not only that, he tells the police about all his crimes. Cayetano is taken to a mental asylum visited by doctors and psychiatrists, sentencing him to stay in the center. Here, his violent behavior continues. He tries to kill other patients. Despite this, the court supports the idea of Cayetano's improvement after treatments in the asylum. On November 20th, 1915, he is transferred to the state penitentiary, sentenced to life imprisonment. On March 28th, 1923, he was transferred to Ushuaia Penitentiary. He seemed to be a good prisoner and was given a job he took on without many problems. He tried to ask for parole twice, but both times it was denied. In 1933, he spent a lot of time in the hospital after being beaten by some inmates. Even inside the prison, he managed to kill 2 cats belonging to 2 inmates. His parents distanced themselves and returned to Italy. From 1935, he was always sick, and on November 15, 1944, he died in strange circumstances. It seems he was poisoned. I found a summary of medical information in the General Archive of the Courts of Buenos Aires. This is one of the stories that struck me the most. Dr. Ernesto Nelson, on April 1st, 1913, wrote, "Cayetano Santos Godino is a case of aggravated degeneration due to the social abandonment he suffered, and therefore cannot be considered responsible for the crimes he committed, even though his freedom is seriously dangerous." Well, we've come to the end of this video. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions, write them in the comments section. Did you know this story? See you in the next video. Bye!